Yipee-Ki-Yay Mr. Falcon.
Welcome to our first episode, Yipee-Ki-Yay Mr. Falcon. I'm Dave, and this is my regular guest and longtime friend, Tom. Say hi, Tom.
Hello, everybody.
This is just kind of a way for us to introduce ourselves to y'all and let you know a little bit about what we're about, and then we'll get into some rambling about movies and things like that, because that's why we're here. We're here to talk about movies first and foremost, but as with all things, that always leads to other more interesting, introspective kind of topics and stuff, and sometimes it doesn't, but it's always kind of fun. And I guess we could both say that we're, movie addicts. We've when we were young, we watched a lot of movies. Of course, as life comes in and jobs and families and things like that happen, you watch less and less, and you get to be pickier, right, about what you watch. I know, Tom, your time is very valuable.
Oh, yeah.
You have 2 young kids and family and a house and a job and all kinds of crap to balance, and
it doesn't leave a whole lot of time.
Yeah, man, and nothing feels worse than when you set aside some time to watch a movie and it ends up sucking, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you used to have that one movie to rent every week at Blockbuster and you pick a fucking dud.
Yeah, but back then when you had the time, it didn't sting as much. Now it's like, oh man, I don't know when I'm going to get this chance again.
So hopefully in a roundabout way, we can help some folks out there avoid that through our musings. And so why should you be listening to us about movies? Well, I mean, we're talking at you, but also we have nothing to do with the film industry. We're not script writers. We're not set designers. We're not prop people. I have worked in the publishing industry for a long time, at least 15 years, in magazines, websites, newspapers, everything that's gone now. All kinds of dinosaur creature industries. That's been my forte, and working in the outdoor industry a lot. But through it all, I've continued to grow my film collection, and I watch movies. I'll say this again, probably. I watch movies the way people listen to music, but way too much. I always have something on in the background, and it's gotten worse since streaming has become a thing. At least I'd have to get the effort to go, change a DVD out before, and sometimes I just watch the same movie over again. But now, no, you can just click around and watch horrible shit that you should never be watching just because it's there to stream. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
But Tom's not so bad. Tom's a musician and has other things occupying his mind sometimes, right?
Well, sometimes when I'm not like at work, dealing with kids and just dealing with the general grind of being a homeowner and trying to figure out what's going to break next. But yeah, I mean, I have nothing to do with that industry or that world. I work in a grocery store, and have for the last 18 years. And, I'm still an enthusiast though. And I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum where I don't have it on all the time. I got something on for my kids on constantly, so I could quote, entire episodes of Spidey and His Amazing Friends back to you from the Disney Channel. But, when I do get a chance to put something on, it's either, oh man, give me something good, or give me something I've seen 1,000 times and I can just kind of disappear into something that I know and is comfortable and can just kind of disappear into for a little spell of time.
Yeah, I don't know Spidey and His Amazing Friends. That's new. That's a new one on me. Sorry, man.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll fill you in one day. I'll give you all the lore.
And Tom and I, we've known each other, God, since high school, since we were
Oh, man.
about, what, 14?
Yeah.
Maybe? We're a long way from 14 now.
Yeah.
And we took kind of really different paths. And like he said, he's been working at the same place for almost 20 years. And I think the longest I've been at one place has been 3 years since I got out of college, just because they keep fucking shutting down, man. And I got to keep moving on. But yeah, we never really left the area. Like, we're in the same county where we grew up. And, this is really something that we value a lot now, because now we get together at least once a week and talk about movies. And it's forcing us to pay attention to things a little bit more. I think that's what it's doing for me anyway.
Yeah. And this is all stuff that we would talk about anyway. We just happen to have invited some more people along for the ride this go around. But this is all stuff.
And some of this stuff, some of this stuff we have talked about, right?
Yeah,
like in diners
at length
and whatnot
over a pot of coffee.
So, yeah, but hey, we're sober for these talks usually, and at some point we're gonna have to remedy that on purpose.
Mm-hmm. That could be fun.
Be fine. Maybe we'll do that when we explore our deep and unabiding love for Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That if we're ever going to do it, that would be a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what would you say? I don't know if someone were to ask me about my movie tastes. I mean, and why anyone should listen to us about what we have to think about movies. We're consummate fans. We were born in the early 80s. Our generation's been really unlucky with a lot of things and timing wise, but we were really lucky when it came to movies, because there's a lot of amazing films came out in the 80s, the 90s, and the aughts. And, just in time for home video and just in time for us, and for us to form a deep relationship with movies that other generations haven't been able to do. And we just bought it. I bought it. I when I was younger, I was a little more narrow with what I would watch, and I went through a phase where I just watched horror movies way too often, way too much. I think we all did. Doesn't everyone do that when they're a teenager for like a little while?
Oh yeah. Some of us never stop.
Yeah. Tom's sisters actually are huge horror movie fans, like beyond fans. I don't know, what would you even call it? They're obsessed a little.
Gurus.
Obsessed? Guru. That's good. Yeah. Guru. Horror movie gurus.
They're students of the genre.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They made it part of their adult life, their professional life even.
Yeah.
So, movies have factored into what we just, I don't know, for me it was a lot of, it helped me bond with my father, movies like Rocky and The Godfather and stuff, and baseball movies, because I was terrible at sports. So we had to find some common ground, and watching The Natural was about as close as I was going to get. But that seemed to work. But movies have done a lot for me. I don't think I would have tried theater in high school if not for my weird movie obsession. Not that did anything, but I look back on that fondly, and it was I learned a lot. It's something Tom and I actually did together too.
Yeah,
for a while.
It's been fun to go back and talk about what we were both into when we were hanging out a lot when we were younger. And then I get one of my favorite things now is to get from you. Have you seen this? No. Have you seen this? No. How about this? No. And you can kind of tell where we kind of took different paths here, and we still share a lot of the same interests. But it's just funny to hear, like, I had no idea you'd seen and how many, like, you own so many movies.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah, dude. See, when you work when you work in an office for years and years, and you're me, you always find a way to watch something instead of working when you don't want to work. And I mean, my first job out of college, I had an office with a door and shit. Like, I got paid dick, but I had a brand new Mac G5 on my desk, and I just watched movies, man. Like, I'd put DVDs in that sucker and put earbuds in, and half my screen was a movie. Who knew? And I used to watch. I rode a train for 3 years. I rode a train to New York for my commute was like 2.5 hours each way, and I would watch movies on my iPod because that's all I had back then. But I had a video iPod, and I would load movies from iTunes or possibly downloaded from the internets.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. And I'd watch them on that little fucking screen, or sometimes I'd listen to them, literally listening to episodes of It's Always Sunny, like their songs. So yeah, I mean, I think that might have been where we diverged a little bit, because I just had the opportunity to shirk work and watch movies instead.
Oh yeah. Well,
You can't do that when you do your job.
No such luck in retail. You're especially in like a busy setting. I mean, I work in a food store, and it's a busy one, and there is no filter between you and the endless waves of hungry people in your area that just seem to never have any food in the fridge, and you're just getting pounded constantly. And so then I think, oh man, I really want to watch this movie on Thursday. I'm thinking this on like a Monday, and so then it becomes even more of I'll do like a bit of research. It's like, okay, I'm interested in these 4 movies, but I can't watch all 4. Maybe I can watch 1.5. And so let me see if I can get the most bang for my buck on this night off that I have. And when I have nothing to get up early in the morning for. And it totally changes the way that you kind of do the calculus in your head of figuring out what you're gonna watch. And it's been funny to talk to you about it in this way, because now I'm getting the never ending stream of suggestions, and that's been pretty cool.
You got a serious list going, man. Well, I'll tell you, like, creating human beings and that will grow up and love you and take care of you when you're old. Like, that's bullshit, man. I get to watch movies.
Yeah, I'm doing it all wrong.
I totally made the better choice.
Oh man.
But no, I've written about movies a fair amount in my career, and I've reviewed newer movies when it's come up, as my publications allowed, and I've written some longer pieces when I've had editors to just let me go ham on one thing or another. So I've kind of had my feet in that pool for a number of years. But I hate to say it, but we're just like you, but we are different different paths, similar backgrounds, but we're just we're the kids of working class people from the Northeast who just love movies, man. And we're not, I mean, not to say anything against folks from California or from LA, but we're about as far away from Hollywood as you can get and still be in the country without, going to Maine or Miami.
Yeah, I know. I never thought about it that way, but that's accurate.
I don't know. I think I'm not a map doctor, but I think Hawaii Hawaii might be further away, or the tippy tip of Alaska. I don't know. We're pretty fucking far from Hollywood in Jersey over here. But show business is a thing here in a way. I mean, we're near New York, and half the films ever made are set in New York.
Oh God, everything.
So I don't know about you, man, but I've seen a lot of locations from a lot of movies in real life at this point.
Yeah.
Just from going to New York.
Yeah, it is kind of neat to be close enough to some of those places that you can actually like see where it was filmed or like, inhabit that world, that same world for, at least a little bit.
That might sound trivial, to some folks, but I'll tell you, living here, I think it's allowed me to have a deeper connection growing up too with a lot of not even a genre, but just certain films like Rocky. We talk about Rocky sometimes for various reasons, just because it's one of the top 100 films of all time. But growing up near Philadelphia, it means something else, right?
Yeah.
Movies like The Godfather, they filmed some of that shit in North Jersey, and it takes place at places that are like an hour train ride away. You feel like a little bit more of an intimate connection to things, I think, when they're not gulfs. Like if you live in Ohio, there's not many movies set in Ohio that are positive about Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's like a celebration. I know what you mean.
Yeah, not to shit on Ohio, but I mean I've been there, and it's awesome. It's an awesome place. I mean, but it's huge, and there's not a lot of people, and it's fucking depressing.
You should have. Apologies to anyone hearing this from Ohio. We don't know. We don't know. At least I don't.
I guess. I don't know. My dad's a Cleveland Browns fan. He's a Cincinnati Reds fan. Kiss my ass. I had to deal with that shit growing up. Living in South Jersey near Philadelphia. Do you know what that's like, man? And he was always disappointed and angry. Oh, shit. Yeah, so I mean, movies are a big part of who I am, I think, in a lot of ways, because I'm an only child. I had no siblings, so I lived in my head a lot, and movies were great for inspiration for that, man, especially when we were young. They made some weird shit, even for kids, just movies supposedly made for kids, dark, weird shit, and it got me interested in other weird shit and interested in reading. And I definitely watched movies before I could read. That's for sure. And if you pay attention to, if you're inclined to pay attention to certain things, you learn the rhythm of stories, and you learn how to identify with characters and things like that. I mean, when you have that little rubber elastic child mind, like, do your kids watch a lot of movies, or?
Yeah, they have their favorites, and well, the nice thing though is at the age they're at now, they only get to watch what I kind of suggest, So yeah, I put on stuff that I think they'll like, but also there are some things that I can slip in there from my childhood. It's like, this is what I grew up on, and we'll see if you like this. And sometimes it doesn't always go off, but like not too long ago, I put on The Hobbit, like the animated Hobbit movie for my kids, and they love that movie. And it's like,
really,
oh, they love it. Yeah, and it's great for me too, because like I get to, that's one of the ones when they asked me to put it on, like, oh yeah, I can't get it on fast enough because I want to do it before they change their mind and want to watch like Bubble Guppies or something. So, and I get to share that with them, in the same way you were talking about bonding with your old man over certain things. I'm doing that from the other end right now, like it's really cool to see my kids getting into stuff that I was into when I was a kid. Like another big one is Godzilla. Oh my God, I loved Godzilla when I was a kid. Cool. So one day I'm folding laundry, like I'm often doing on a day off, and one of my kids wakes up from a nap and comes down, and I'm like, okay, don't worry, I'll turn this off and put on, something that more palatable. And then they just say, Dad, why is that lizard so angry? What's he doing? I was like, well, that's Godzilla. And I started explaining things, and then they sat down and just couldn't look away. And I was like, okay, I'll leave it on. And now they're huge Godzilla fans, like even the old Japanese ones. So we're bonding over that
fantastic.
Right now, in the same way that you kind of like we're bonding with your old man. I'm planting the seeds of that kind of stuff right now, and it's a lot of fun to share that with them.
That's cool. a good friend of mine, he has a son who's about 5 years old now, and he recently told me that him and his son have been watching Predator together, the original.
At 5? Oh man.
And the kid is in love with it. He is in love with Dutch, with Arnold as Dutch. And he even got him a T-shirt with Arnold on it, and it just says Dutch on top of it. And he's like, he keeps getting shit from teachers at school because he keeps trying to play Predator with the other kids. He's like, these other kids don't know what the hell he's talking about, but he keeps trying to play Predator with them, and the teachers are getting a little upset. But I mean, that's the kind of shit I was watching when I was that age, for better or for worse. We'll talk about a lot of that stuff later, as we go through our topics. But I watched a lot of action movies probably before I should have, and there were damaging holiday movies when we were kids, like emotionally taxing movies, like that fucking Never-Ending Story shit.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of that. I didn't really watch that much as a kid, but I know so many people who were just traumatized by the horse getting killed.
Oh man, Artex. Oh,
Artax,
yeah.
dude.
I was one of those people. I was like, no, not the horse.
Yeah, I think, see, there was these weird tests in my house. It was like there were certain movies that if my dad really hated it, it didn't come in the house. And I think that movie really annoyed the piss out of him for some reason. So it didn't make it into the canon. But, I've seen it, and I remember I saw it once, like on TV, and the wolf creature in the cave freaked me out.
Yeah, he was.
I had a problem with werewolves. As a kid because I saw Thriller, the music video for Thriller, which was a little mini movie, and that messed me up pretty good. And I saw American Werewolf in London way too young. That fucked me up good too.
That'll do it.
That's the first movie I remember giving me nightmares, but I kept wanting to watch it. I've never really figured that out in my psyche.
No, you get fascinated by it.
Man, I was, dude. Like, and then that was one of the first things. And then, do you remember first, have you taken your kids to see a movie in the theater yet?
Yes.
With COVID, you have? Okay, wow. I thought maybe you hadn't, like with COVID and all that. I could totally see how that didn't happen, but
yeah, I brought my one of my kids to see the first Paw Patrol movie, and
okay.
we recently went to see the third Trolls movie.
Wow.
Yeah, not ideal, but hey, man,
interesting.
They loved it. They're at
that's all that's important.
That's the age they're at, and that's what we're in for.
Well,
I'm looking forward very much to King Kong X Godzilla coming out next year because I got a couple of budding, kaiju fans. So that's going to be our first like real deal like big Hollywood movie. So look out.
Outstanding. What do you remember the first movie you saw in the theater?
Oh, yeah, man, that's tough. I know because I've been told that my first movie was Return of the Jedi, but I don't
You're a baby.
I don't remember that. Yeah, I was a little baby. I was I was barely aware of anything. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can remember going to see movies, but I don't remember which one was first.
No.
Like there were some that stick out as like being, huge. Where I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Like what? Like what's the earliest one you can think of?
Jurassic Park. When I saw Jurassic Park,
oh wow,
I thought it was like this is the greatest movie ever made. It will not ever get better than this. In my little,
I saw that in the theater.
Kid brain.
That blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I saw that in the theater, dude. I remember actually it was the one and only time I ever like kind of hid my face in a theater because the T-Rex scared the living shit out of me.
Yeah, man, it was scary.
It looked so real. It looks so real.
It holds up too. It looks great today. It looks better than anything going.
It still looks great today, but you can't even. I mean, we were kids, seeing it. So of course it blew our minds, but that blew everyone's mind back then. You can't overemphasize what a big deal that movie was, because it made something that movies had tried to do for a very, very long time, show creatures that are dinosaur size, right? Or actual dinosaurs. And it never ever once looked convincing. Like, not even a little bit. No one ever even came close. And then all of a sudden you have this entire movie full of dinosaurs that look like you could reach out and touch them. And you literally just sat there like, how the fuck did they do that? How the fuck did they do that?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of that
amazing.
in the 90s. There was a lot of that in the 90s. We were very lucky to be seeing movies in theaters in that decade, I think. And I remember, the first movie I remember is the one and only time my folks took me to see two movies back to back. And we saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original, and Dick Tracy.
Dick Tracy.
The one with Warren. Yeah, the one with Warren Beatty and Madonna.
That was good.
I haven't seen it in a very, very long
hold on.
time.
Let me rephrase. I remember liking it. I'll say that. I won't commit to saying it's a good movie.
Like, it was real campy, right?
Yeah.
I think that was its shtick, right?
It was like a comic
based
book
on a
movie.
comic strip. Yeah, it was based on a comic strip with weird, outlandish villains and everything. But man, I don't really remember seeing that as much, because I think through that whole movie, I was replaying the Turtles movie in my head.
I think I saw Ninja Turtles in the theater when I was a kid. Yeah, that was a good one.
And that's a good example. That movie was definitely made for kids, but it had some dark elements that you would not find in a made-for-kids movie today at all.
You'll never, ever see a kid smoking a cigar while shooting pool today.
Go for it.
It'll never happen.
Go for it. It's not mine. It's my. Oh, dude. You know that? Okay, so you know that movie really well.
Yeah.
Like, for you mentioned that scene where the kid's smoking the cigar. That's all shown because these other two kids come down into the Foot Clan's like underground teenage lair, right?
Which looked amazing. I wanted to hang out there, and
there were kids on skateboards.
Yeah, man. The half pipe was there.
Table hockey.
They were playing narc.
Cigarettes.
They had like a narc arcade cabinet, throwing cigarettes to each other. God, it was like Pinocchio.
And here's something that's going to kind of blow your mind. So that scene that you're talking about with the kid chewing the cigar and playing pool, right?
Yeah.
In this awesome skateboard-infested teen wonderland. There's two kids who come down, they're like new and being introduced to everything, and there's a guy who's like playing tour guide. And the one thing these kids want are some cigarettes. And he holds up, he's like, you want regular or menthol? And he's got like cartons of cigarettes.
Yeah, I remember that.
That dude is Sam Rockwell.
That's Sam Rockwell?
Yeah.
No
that little
way.
skinny dude. Yep. It's like his first movie credit. And he's also, toward the end, he's the kid who tries to get the other kids to fight Casey Jones. And it doesn't go well.
Oh.
He has like 4 lines.
I love Sam
But
Rockwell.
yeah, that's yeah, dude. He's awesome.
He's great.
He's been in so many cool movies. Did you ever see Moon?
I have seen Moon.
That's an excellent movie.
That movie's wild.
That was
a
that's
movie,
the test of an actor.
That was a movie I'd seen because I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch a movie. This is on my list of 10 movies I wanted to see. It's highly rated. It's got this guy I like. It ticked all the boxes, and so I watched that instead of whatever other garbage was on my list.
Yeah, I've watched many movies just because he's in them, and I'm usually not disappointed. Though he does take small parts a lot, but he makes every movie he's in better. He's just fucking awesome. And Moon is so cool. And that's a real test of an actor if they can carry a movie literally by themselves. Not every actor, not even every good actor can do that. And he can, man. And he's definitely an underrated actor for sure.
Oh yeah, he's great.
But yeah, that's where he started back in 1989 in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In the Foot Clan, a budding youth in the Foot Clan. It's goofy as shit. But like, yeah, that sounds goofy, right? But they also took the mentor of our heroes and had him chained up to a wall and tortured through the entire movie. Like, the coolest turtle gets his ass kicked so bad he's in a coma in a tub.
Oh yeah.
And fucking April O'Neil's really cool, like, half antique store, half loft apartment gets burned down. Like, the turtle's sewer hideaway gets ransacked and invaded. Like, it's a brutal movie for a kid, man. But that's why I guess we can still watch it all these years later, because they didn't really make a lot of kid movies back then, did they?
No.
I mean, I'm trying to think of it now, and other than like holiday movies and Christmas type stuff, there really wasn't that much that was made specifically for kids, other than what Disney was doing. You know, my folks say the first movie I ever went to was when Snow White came back to theaters. In the 80s, it was like the big deal because there were all these Disney movies that had been released, of course, several times over the years, but Disney had put a bunch of them in their vault and hadn't released them in a long time.
Oh, the Disney vault. That's right.
Yeah. And there was no home video, really, before the 80s. So they started rolling out all these old classics in the 80s, re-releasing them to theaters, and then they would start putting them out on tape. And that was the beginning of the era of the big, foamy, plastic Disney tape boxes. You remember them?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And
the ones that wouldn't fit on the shelf.
Right. They were like those damn annoying books that were a couple inches bigger than all the rest. But yeah, apparently Snow White was like a big deal because no one had seen it in 30 years or whatever.
Right.
So they took me to see. I don't remember it. We went to a little AMC 8 theater on the highway on 73.
I know. I went to that one. Yep. I mean, we lived real close together, so we were probably going to the same places. And then,
well, for years that was the only one around here, right?
And they built one really close by. You know which one I'm talking about?
Oh man, the one next to the mall.
Yeah, and the
one next to it was a Regal.
I remember when they built it. I was like, "This is awesome. We don't have to drive 40 minutes to the theater anymore."
It changed our lives.
Oh, we spent a lot of time there.
And it was great because before we could drive, we'd get dropped off at the mall, and you could walk to the movie theater, or vice versa. You know, it wasn't connected like a lot of movie theaters are, like part of a mall. It was, I don't know what, like 500, 600 yards away.
Yeah, it was real
across
close.
some roads. Like you could see one from the other, and man, that was great. It was like having your own, like, we had like a neighborhood almost to hang out in that was far away from our houses. And Jesus, man, once we got into high school and we had friends working at the theater, well, we saw a lot of free movies.
Well, you did.
I know I did.
You did. I didn't have I didn't know the same people, so I had to pay.
You came with me a couple times.
Yeah, once or twice.
I remember I saw you and your dad there waiting in line
for the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah. Me and our friend John went to an earlier show when the Blair Witch Project first came. I think it was like opening day, and it had all this hype up behind it. Like, it was this big fucking deal.
The line was down the hall for that movie.
Yeah. It was one of those movies where people were so into seeing it, they showed up so early for a showing that they'd have to wait for the theater to empty out before they could go in. And Tom and his dad were waiting to go in as me and John were coming out. And I don't remember if we said anything to you about it, but we didn't ruin it like we could have because we were assholes back then.
No, you did not. I appreciate that.
Okay.
I saw you. I was like,
Good.
"What are you doing here?" And you're like, "What the hell do you think I'm doing here?" Just saw a movie.
That was an awesome theater experience, though. Blair Witch. That was great.
Yeah, that
a
was
buddy
awesome.
A buddy of mine has an excellent podcast called Cut and Retie. It's a fishing podcast, but he has all kinds of guests on, and he's actually going to have the guy who played Mike in Blair Witch on his show soon. And
Really?
we'll throw, yeah.
Is
We'll
he a
throw
big
a link to
fisherman?
that when it's up. Yeah. He's actually a big, he's a big fly fisherman. Well, I mean, he was older than we were by a good 10 years. So, he's got to be pushing 50 at least now. So rock and roll, man. That's going to be cool. We'll throw a link up to that when that's live. I'm an idiot and forgot to mention that my friend's name is Joe Cermelli. And that's Joe Cermelli's awesome fishing podcast, Cut and Retie, available wherever the hell you get your podcasts. And that actor from the Blair Witch Project from 1999 is Michael Williams, who played Michael Williams. Thank you. Yeah, that's us, man, rubbing shoulders with the glitterati.
With the elite.
People who glitter. I mean, I once met Joe Mantegna in an elevator.
Joe Mantegna of Criminal
Joe
Minds
Mantegna.
fame?
Of Criminal Minds. Fuck it. I'm going to tell this story. This is a good story. This is funny. I was in Vegas with my wife for a work thing that she tagged along with, right? And we were in an elevator in the Venetian. And we get in, and two younger guys, I think who may have been at the convention, got in, and they were goofy. I think they were half kicked in the ass, right? And I look over, and I notice this dude in the back corner of the elevator. It's fucking Joe Mantegna, looking like a normal dude, just like dressed normal, looking real tired, like he's been up for 3 days at a convention, doing shit in Vegas, right? I'm like, oh, wow. And I tap Lenny. I'm like, that dude's an actor. I didn't know if she knew who the fuck Joe Mantegna was, right? And these two kids start looking at him because in Vegas, like every elevator is just fucking mirrors.
Right.
Either on the ceiling, the walls, both. They love fucking mirrors. So they're looking at him and they're like talking to each other. And you can see he's getting annoyed already. And this is like the longest elevator ride ever because it kept digging at every fucking floor. I have no idea why. And these two kids turn around and they're like, are you that guy from NCIS? And I shit you not, Joe fucking Mantegna, he looks like down his nose at him and he lifts his eyebrows. He goes, you know what? Fuck NCIS. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, guys, this guy was in fucking Godfather 3 and shit, man. And they're like, no, wait, it's that other one, Criminal Minds. He's like, yeah, Criminal Minds. That's right. And finally it dings on his phone. He's like, excuse me. And he just kind of like pushes past him. And you could tell they were getting ready to ask for like an autograph or just fucking a selfie or some shit.
Got himself the hell out of there.
He was just fucking out, man. I've never seen a man more tired of people than that dude.
That's funny.
In that elevator. But yeah, that was a fucking trip. And I'll never forget him saying it. Just fucking CIS. Shit. There's rivalries among the law enforcement procedurals. That's hot. That's
I can imagine.
You'd think they'd have their own fucking convention at this point. There was a point where, Jesus Christ, man, how many can you name? There was the CSIs.
CSI.
There was like 3 of them.
Yeah, CSI,
Right, there was-
CSI New York, CSI Miami, NCIS.
I think they had a CSI that was set in New Orleans too. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah,
there's like
NCIS.
There's a couple NCISs, like one's in LA,
Yeah.
I think. And
then you've got the Law and Orders.
Oh God, yeah, Law and Order, Law and Order SVU, Law and Order
SVU,
Criminal
which is-
Intent.
They've both been on. Yeah, all of those have been on for decades now at this point. The original Law and Order, God, I remember watching that as a child.
I love that show.
With Jerry Orbach.
Yeah,
Man.
Detective Lenny Briscoe. He was the best,
dude. That was the shit when we were in college and we had 3 stations because we couldn't afford any TV packages.
Yeah.
And they would always show reruns of old Law and Order during the day.
In like marathon form.
Yeah, like at least 4 episodes back to back. Usually in sequence, like as they aired. So any multiple parters, you'd just be locked the fuck in for 4 episodes. But that original cast, that was amazing. But yeah, there was that that period, dude, when there were so many, and I stopped watching TV really, um, in high school. You know, like I
Yeah.
remember I'd watch, like my folks would watch TV at night. You know, and you'd watch whatever they were watching, Seinfeld or whatever the fuck, right? But I remember I'd watch The Sopranos with them when that came on. We were big into that. We were a huge Sopranos family, but you only got one season like every other year with that for about 10 years. So, no, like I don't, as we got into high school, it was just all movies for me. I got really sick of, I don't know, just pop culture and TV just got really dorky. I don't know if it was me. I don't know if it was TV, but I look back at what was on. I think it was just a combination of both. Um, I don't remember you watching much TV at all.
I watched Law and Order.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had a
well,
real short list of shows. Like when I was a kid, I watched a lot of TV, but then like when I hit a certain age, I started to get way more into guitar. And if I could steal, and I played a lot of Sega Genesis too. So if I had time, I was doing one of those two things. I was trying to plunk out whatever Jimi Hendrix song I felt brave enough to try, or I was trying to top my high score on Streets of Rage 2 or something like that, or playing Mortal Kombat or something. But yeah, but there were a few, like the X-Files was kind of like religious in our house. We'd all run to the TV at 9 o'clock on a Friday. And when Law and Order was another one that we really liked. Yeah, and they were great, but there was a select few that got everybody in front of the TV.
Man, X-Files.
Yeah.
We were big X-Files people when it first came out. That was a family show, and then I kept with it for years. That's actually one of the first things me and my wife found out we had in common. She was a ridiculous X-Files fan when she was a kid. So I knew I'd found someone with pockets of nerddom.
Yeah, you got to look for those.
It was a big green flag. It was excellent. But no, the X-Files is a great show, and I've rewatched it since, and those first few seasons are fucking amazing, But again, that was a new thing. Fox was new. That was like an experimental show. And we got to see a lot of that, which was neat. A lot of TV networks trying new shit to outdo each other.
Yeah.
A lot of competition because that was cool because Fox was the new kid and all of a sudden MTV had shows where they never did before. Remember they had animation. They had Eon Flux and Max.
And the head.
The head. They were all weird, but they were all kind of cool and sandwiched between either Beavis and Butthead and music videos. I watched the shit out of some Beavis and Butthead, man.
Oh, God.
Whew. Boy. Yeah, I guess there was TV, but I mean, yeah, still that's all before high school. Beavis and Butthead was junior high and earlier.
Yeah, I was.
I
wasn't allowed to watch Beavis and Butthead. That was outlawed.
No.
Yeah.
Man, the shit my parents let me watch and didn't let me watch is very strange. I knew a lot of kids who weren't allowed to watch Beavis and Butthead. And I knew some kids who weren't allowed to watch The Simpsons.
I wasn't allowed to watch The
back in the
Simpsons
day.
either when I was younger.
No?
Yeah. And like
No? My dad liked Homer.
yeah.
So I
mean,
could watch
who
it.
Who doesn't like Homer? But yeah, there was some stuff my parents found objectionable, so I couldn't watch it. But then like they let me watch like Ren and Stimpy, which
Whoa, really?
yeah, which like on the I get it though because it was on Nickelodeon, which was a kids channel.
It's true.
Right?
It's
and
true.
It was a cartoon. And if you just like kind of were in the room for a little bit while it was on, you're like, yeah, that show's weird, but whatever. But man, that show was so much worse than anything that Simpsons could put.
Show, dude.
It was. I watched it much later as an adult, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I was allowed to see this when I was a kid. It was shocking.
It can gross you out as an adult. It can actually gross you out as a grown man.
Well, not even just gross, just like off the wall
and weird.
Very, very, very inappropriate. Wildly inappropriate.
Deeply weird. But I remember, like, yeah, if we're going back to when we were little kids, I remember the Ghostbusters cartoon.
Oh,
I lived for that.
That was awesome.
And Masters of the Universe, Thundercats, all those great shows that were engineered to sell you toys.
Oh yeah, man. I had a bunch of He-Man toys.
Yeah, dude, I was like, again, I was an only child, and living in semi-urban suburban hell over here. Like I had a lot of toys. I was huge into action figures, and I would act out movies. I did that a lot. I had certain GI Joes that played all the parts in Predator.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I would act out the closest I had to Predator was like a guy in a flight suit with like a crazy mask. It was the best I could do. But he had like a claw thing on his hand. Man, that was enough for me.
Close enough.
That was all I needed. Yeah,
You're there.
I did that a lot with GI Joes because you could kind of make them almost anybody. You couldn't really play anything else with Batman figures other than fucking Batman. But that's something else we got that was pretty fucking awesome in 1989 when Tim Burton's Batman came out. There was this big spike in superhero toys again. Whereas, there had been cartoons like Spider-Man and fucking, Super Friends and the various, and, Batman the Animated Series came later, but there was no tie-in for, like, superheroes had been replaced by He-Man and Thundercats and Ghostbusters, and that's what all the toys were for a while. And then all of a sudden in 89, superheroes were cool again for kids. And man, I remember I got the toy of the Batmobile from Tim Burton's movie. And I fucking loved that thing. I absolutely love that thing, dude.
That's awesome.
I love that thing, and I remember not like in 5th grade, this kid Ryan came over, hung out at my house, and we were playing with Batman stuff.
Oh, what'd he do?
And he rammed 2 of my Batmobiles together. And later, after he left, I noticed he had done it so hard he broke one of the headlights on the 89 Batmobile.
That's a violation.
And I was furious. Other kids never knew how to play right, man. They never knew. They always confused me because it always seemed like they were just trying real hard to break their toys.
It's funny. And that movie in particular was, when you mentioned that, like that's what we watched instead of TV when we were kids. Like
the Batman movie?
Yeah, like when we got it, my parents bought it on VHS, and like I remember that tape because it didn't even say Batman on it on the front.
Nope. It was black.
Yeah.
With what right in the middle?
With the that
bat
gold
symbol.
bat symbol. And it was awesome.
Yeah, it was like gold, but almost coppery, and it was made to look metallic. And I remember how it was cropped even.
Yep.
Because it didn't fit. Like, yeah, it didn't have, exactly, it was cropped too tight. The right and left were cut off of the bat symbol, but it was,
in your face.
That was one of the first tapes we ever, as a family, had in the house that wasn't recorded at home. It was one of the first pre-recorded tapes we ever bought.
Yeah, you had to have it.
We had to have Batman. We had to fucking have Batman.
Do you remember the stuff in the beginning when you would because they used to put little commercials in the beginning, and there was something with Bugs Bunny,
and Daffy,
and
right?
Daffy Duck wearing a bat cape.
Yeah,
and there was some stupid Diet Coke commercial. And you see Alfred Pennyworth pouring a Diet Coke into a glass, and you hear that, just for the taste of it, Diet Coke, and then they show a little Coke can with a
Coke can
bat cape,
the cape
blowing in the wind.
The wind, and there's a spotlight.
Yeah.
No, I remember that. I remember
kind of
that.
Stuff
I remember
became part of the experience. It's like, oh yeah, we got to watch this thing before the movie starts.
Well, it's like that cartoon that was before Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, that Roger Rabbit cartoon.
Oh yeah.
It was, if you bought the tape, there was a whole a little 10-minute Roger Rabbit and Baby Herman cartoon in front of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
That's right.
Yeah. Roger Rabbit. Whew.
I love that movie.
Man. Another one with some dark shit in it.
Oh yeah, man. Just Jessica Rabbit.
Kids movie.
I'm not bad.
Yeah, that too.
I'm just drawn that way.
But Christopher Lloyd is so fucking scary in that. And then when you make the connection that he's Doc Brown, you don't trust Hollywood ever again. You'll never trust movies ever again.
What did they do to Doc Brown?
Why is he so mean in this one? He's putting a little shoe in the dip and screaming.
That's right, I killed your brother Eddie. I don't want to do.
Talk like this.
I can't do the voice anymore.
Apparently, if you watch that movie, Christopher Lloyd never blinks once in any scene.
Yeah,
I haven't tested that. But I haven't seen that in a while. I do owe that one a visit. But that was another movie that could have only been made when we were coming up. That was wild at the time, blending that animation with live action. They tried it again.
So good.
It looked great. And they tried it again with a couple things. Like I remember, what was that Brad Pitt movie, Cool World?
I never saw that.
I saw it like once or twice. Some people love it, but Roger Rabbit was a milestone. Like Batman was a milestone. Batman '89 was that was that, and the Turtles. I remember those just being so big. They seemed like when a movie was big back then, it was everywhere for a while, because it was on McDonald's cups and on billboards and fucking on merch in Kmart and on backpacks and shit for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And for the Batman movies, I mean, there were 4 of them that came out, so it was just there was always a bat symbol on everything for years. But that's a thing of the past, I think. You don't see. I mean, there's big movies today that make a ton of money, but they don't stick around like that in the public eye for that amount of time anymore. To get to know them. I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's just different.
Yeah, you're right. Like the when something caught on, it was there forever, and now it's just. I mean. Yeah, they just churn them out. Well, not so much anymore. Like they're not making as many right now. But there was a time when, you barely got a chance to digest and experience something before the next thing was coming out and replacing it.
Yeah, the cycle's completely changed from when we were coming up, and we'll talk about this later. But there was like a longing for movies when you couldn't get them. In between periods. And I don't know, that made it more special in a way. I sound like an old man, but it's true. It's a different rhythm to all of it. If you're really into movies, seeing it in the theater and then deciding whether you're going to plunk down money for another ticket and see it again. Like there were very few movies that passed that test.
Oh,
that you would spend money to see it twice.
Yeah,
very, very few. Fuck, I think the first one I ever saw twice was Phantom Menace. Just because I went to see it with like 4 different groups of people.
We saw that together. You and I saw that. Yeah, we saw that one together.
Yeah, you were one of them, absolutely. And I remember I went and saw I don't know if people remember, but leading up to the release of the prequels in the 90s, they put out all the original Star Wars movies in the theater again for the first time since they had been out originally, right?
Mm-hmm.
In order. And I saw every one of them at that Regal Theater alone, I think. I think I saw Return of the Jedi and Empire alone. I think somebody went with maybe you. Did we go see the original Star Wars together?
I don't think I saw the originals with you. No.
Maybe it was Jeff. Somebody I think I went with.
I saw the prequels with you.
Man, I wanted to see him on a big screen. I didn't care. But Phantom Menace was just such a novel thing. We didn't care that it sucked at the time.
It was new Star Wars.
It was new Star Wars, and we just were waiting for the lightsaber battle at the end. Every time.
That was a good one, too.
Just, you got to get through the pod race bullshit, and then you get the lightsaber shit. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, that's it, man. That was exactly it.
Looking back on it, I hate that movie. At this point, I'm starting to get real strong feelings about Star Wars, but that's a much bigger topic.
Oh man, yeah, we need another.
We'll devote some time to that.
Oh,
but again, that's another that's something else. Is an integral part of our upbringing is Star Wars, the original and the prequels, because we were pretty young when the prequels started coming out.
Yeah, when did
You know.
Phantom Menace come out? Was that 99,
I think it was earlier than that.
97? I think so.
Hold on, let me check.
It was right around that time.
Yeah, it was 1999. You were right.
Yeah, I was.
All right, so for our first episode, we're going to be trying out a format that we like to call laundry list here at Yipee-Ki-Yay Mr. Falcon. And it really just involves me trying to convince someone, usually an adult in their 40s, usually Tom, to watch a specific movie with the limited time every week that they have to watch movies. And that can be a tough sell when you have kids and a job, and you may only be able to sit down and really watch one whole movie once a week if you're lucky and can stay awake. If you're young, it's coming for you. You think it's not, and you think it's like some old man shit, like in your 60s. It's coming. You're gonna feel it somewhere in your 30s, unless you're like super healthy and work out every day and you're one of those fucking people. So here we go. Episode 1, laundry list, and we're going to be doing Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007. Yeah, I got myself into this, and hopefully I'll convince you that I'm not insane. Thanks for joining. We're trying something a little different today. This is called laundry list. Now, this is how it works. TJ's seen a lot of movies, right? And when he was young and fresh-faced, he used to watch a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
But while I stayed happily childless these many years, he went and started a family and got all responsible and shit. So his time is limited. And what's your window every week, man, to watch movies?
Oh, man, my window. Well, I'll give you a little insight. I don't know if you know this, Dave, but kids are small.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and consequently, a full hamper of small little kids' clothes is a lot of garments to fold. And so when they're both full, I got 2 kids, it's right around 2 hours for 2 loads of child's laundry washed, folded, and put away. So that winds up being movie time if I can pick something, because Hollywood has failed me recently, and I'm forced to pick something from back in the archive, and I get analysis paralysis, and then I pick nothing. So I'm going to rely on you to help me narrow the field a bit.
He's re-experiencing what it felt like to only be able to rent one movie a week from Blockbuster.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And instead of gambling on that movie sucking or not, he just goes with the old standbys. And to help him choose wisely and to see things he hasn't seen yet that are worth his time, I'm going to try to convince him that a given movie is worth his time. And it's always going to be a movie that I've seen and that he has not. And that's kind of it.
The time is precious. I get one shot at this every week.
And if I steer him wrong, he's going to be pissed, and he's going to tell me about it later, and we're going to let you hear it.
I'm going to take it out on you.
So with that, I got my work cut out for me for the first one. We have chosen Halloween 2007. That is the Rob Zombie directed remake of the John Carpenter classic Halloween. And you've never seen this, right?
Nope.
All right. Now, have you seen other Rob Zombie movies?
Yes, I have seen Rob Zombie movies. And now
how do you feel about them?
Well, okay. So here's the thing. Take this with a grain of salt. I am a big Rob Zombie fan. I loved White Zombie. That band was amazing. I loved them. I had a passing interest in Rob Zombie, the band, but White Zombie.
Hold on for a second. Hold on. Kids, if you didn't know this, before he made mediocre to shitty horror movies, Rob Zombie used to make music. Did you know this? Did you know? I know I'm being an asshole, but it is possible someone could come up and not really realize it and just think he was a director who dressed weird. But no, there was a time when he was like hardcore and scared the shit out of parents, and White Zombie was the shit, man.
White Zombie ruled.
It still is. This stuff still tickles my jimmies.
Also named after a pretty cool old horror movie because he's a horror junkie.
Right. Yeah, and there's song titles through all of his records, all of White Zombie's records and his solo stuff. They're almost all allusions to either TV shows or old horror movies. He's like the Quentin Tarantino of B movies, big B horror movies, I think.
Yeah.
What was his first solo album called? I'm blanking.
Rob Zombie was Hellbilly Deluxe.
Hellbilly Deluxe with Dragula.
Yeah.
Was the big single off that, but there were like 5 singles off that record.
Yeah,
that
like
record
living,
was everywhere.
Living Dead Girl. I wasn't as big a fan of that as the White Zombie stuff, but it was still good. I liked it.
I listened to that a lot. Well, he started making movies as his solo career started waning and getting a little ripe on the vine, but he kept putting out records and he keeps going on tour, but whatever. So like his first movie was House of a Thousand Corpses,
which I've seen some of.
Mm-hmm.
And
what else have you seen?
I've seen The Devil's Rejects.
Okay.
I've seen most of House of a Thousand Corpses. I've seen, and I only have seen part of this movie because I shut it off. I couldn't stand it. Was Lords of Salem. I mean, that one really. I really tried. And I say this because I'm a big Rob Zombie fan, and I want to like his movies. I do want to like them, but man, sometimes it's a little difficult.
He has a tendency to run away with himself, right?
Yeah.
You know, it ends up being like a weird masturbation fest of everything Rob Zombie, and he stops caring about his audience. I think, okay, so this is good. This is actually a good place to start and a good way to come at this movie.
Okay.
Because all of his other movies, except for Halloween 2, we're going to talk about that very, very briefly. All of his other movies are his creations, right? He writes them. His wife usually has a large, Sherry Moon Zombie usually has a large role in it. You know, it's very much a Rob Zombie production. This movie, in that it's a remake of a horror classic that he loved, that he knew a lot of eyes were going to be on, right? He was forced into a structure of at least a story, and it does wonders for him. And my entire thesis about Rob Zombie in general is that the guy should have made more movies that he didn't write.
Okay.
And I think he would actually be kind of revered in the horror genre. He has a great sense of style. He has a wonderful sense of composition, and he picks great cinematographers because this movie looks fantastic. The set decoration is all on, like he knows how to create an atmosphere. And I think that's why some of his other movies are there. I mean, House of a Thousand Corpses is basically, you could argue it's a remake of Texas Chainsaw.
Right. Yeah.
To a degree, until it gets absolutely ridiculous in the final act and just falls apart into nonsense. But man, he knows how to make the audience uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, he does.
What? God.
Oh no, I would just agree with that. I mean, he does know how to unsettle people, whether it be through like putting someone in a really bizarre and awkward situation, you know, that they know they should get out of, but like they don't. And there's some real awkward character moments in a lot of his movies. Like the characters are so over the top and ridiculous.
Yeah.
It does get tense for the audience. I get that.
Okay. And so that's the Rob Zombie part of it. Now, what about the original Halloween? You're a fan, right?
I'm a big fan. I love that movie. I mean, it just to go back to that as the thing that kind of kicks off a genre, you know, it's the first time that the world, maybe not the first time it's done, but the first time the world is seeing a couple of things in the mainstream, like the whole point of view killer cam was pretty cool. And it's scary. It's really tense and scary without being all that gory. When I think back on like the whole slasher genre, that one, I mean, it's violent, but it's kind of it's early, and he was kind of testing the waters of what you could get away with filming, and it's not really all that bloody. A lot of it's implied, but it makes it no less scary. And Michael Myers is one of the most terrifying things ever put on screen. I don't know what it is about the mask, but in the fact that he just never stops coming. It's like this unstoppable force. No matter what you throw at him, he keeps coming. I thought it was great, and they John Carpenter in his style did a lot for that whole genre, and he puts it all on the screen. He doesn't tell you anything. He just puts it out there and shows it to you, and the result is awesome.
Fair enough. And yeah, I mean, I'd agree with all that. I'd have to agree with absolutely all that. And that's a great point about the gore level in the original Halloween. There's hardly any blood. And I counted, there are 5 kills in that movie.
Yeah.
Including when he kills his sister as a kid in the very beginning.
And so it works though. It kind of like it, because the kills don't come all fast and furious. Like there's a lot of build up to each one. Like, he's there, he's getting closer, he's in the background. And I think that's part of what makes it so scary, is that like John Carpenter knew how to tease out those moments and just make it sing, instead of just him like mowing people down left and right. You really got scared.
You ended up seeing things like that in a lot of the Jason sequels, just huge body counts and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't we start there? Let's address that, because that is something that has to be addressed, because if you look things up, if you start looking up trivia about this movie, Rob Zombie's Halloween, you're going to see that it has the highest death count in the entire series of films.
Okay, so I didn't look that up, but I can make that inference. I've seen some other Rob Zombie movies, and and I'm armed with 2 pieces of information. I know that it's bloody as hell, and I know that it's got like a kind of a low Rotten Tomato score, and that's all I know going in.
Sure, and I get it. Like, I understand it's a very divisive movie among the Halloween fans and horror fans in general. I think a lot of people hate on it just because they hate Rob Zombie, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. Like, I'm not a big fan of his other movies. I don't watch them. I don't rewatch them. I've seen them. I don't rewatch them, and I rewatched this one. And
okay.
I have some very specific reasons why, and I like this. If I were ranking all of the Halloween movies, I would put this right behind the original.
Really?
I would. I absolutely would. Now, the increased violence, it sounds worse than it actually is, because what Zombie does is he adds an entire additional first chapter, actually 2 chapters, onto the story that Carpenter told in the original from 78. So the 178 starts with Michael Myers murdering his sister. Parents come home, little kid staring off into space, aghast. And the next thing you know, we flash forward, and Michael Myers, off-screen, escapes from the mental institution where he's been basically a catatonic mute all these years, until he snaps to one Halloween and decides to go back to his hometown and cause havoc, right, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So what Zombie's movie does is it tells more about Michael as a kid. It makes the kid, the actual person of Michael Myers as a boy, a character, instead of just this abstract that you never get to meet. Now, some people hated that, right? Some people, said that, it ruins the mystery of the character, and, You know, he's got a shitty home life, and honestly, this is the most Rob Zombie-ish and roughest part to get through if you don't like Rob Zombie, because the dialogue in the opening scenes is so fucking Rob Zombie-ish. Like, so over the top with the cussing and just the white trashiness of it all. But just get through it. Just get through that, because there's only like 2 spots of that in the entire movie. Otherwise, he showed like remarkable restraint, or somebody helped him tone it down, because the rest of it is pretty fucking solid.
Okay.
So he adds this first chapter that it shows that Michael's change into a homicidal maniac, or whatever you want to call him, wasn't instantaneous. There was a moment where he snapped. There's definitely a defining moment where he crosses the line, but it still was a gradual. Whatever happens to him, whatever makes him this way, was a little more gradual than you might think.
Okay.
And I like it. I think there are some genuinely creepy moments, and there's one moment. There's a murder. There's actually 4 murders during this first chapter.
Jesus.
Right, which adds a lot to it. So, I mean, I'll tell you, like, straight up, it's not going to be a shock to you. There's one that's going to be a surprise. I won't tell you about that one, the first one. But instead of just killing his sister, he ends up killing his sister, her boyfriend, and the guy that his mother is, I believe, dating. I don't think it's his stepfather, but it's this scumbag who's living in his house.
Jesus.
His mom's dating. Like this drunk William Forsythe, dude.
Ew.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
He almost makes Zombie's dialogue okay, because he's such a great fucking character actor, and he is such a good scumbag.
Yeah, he does play a good scumbag.
It's wonderful, wonderful. There's a movie where he plays John Wayne Gacy.
Oh God.
It's fucking terrifying. And I think it's called Dear Mr. Gacy. And it's the true story of this kid who, for his graduate program, wrote letters to Gacy in prison and started talking to him on the phone in the months leading up to his execution. And he actually went and visited him in prison a couple times.
Oh boy.
And dude, the movie is so fucking creepy. Like, it's horrible.
I don't want to watch that one.
No, that's not. No,
maybe later.
So that's the first edition, right? And that adds some bodies, okay? And then instead of Michael breaking out of the mental institution off screen, we see it. We see most of it happen.
Oh, you see him bust out. Okay.
Yeah. And now here's something too. If you do decide to listen to me and you watch this movie, be damn sure you don't watch the unrated version. It's
Why?
It's not a lot different, but there's a couple crucial things that are changed that make it worse than the theatrical version. And one of them is the way that he escapes the hospital. It's a completely alternate method of escape, and there's characters that aren't in it, like, and the unrated version has a very Rob Zombie-ish take on it that I hate, and I think it's senseless, and there's like a really, really super unnecessary rape in there.
Ew.
And it's,
oh boy.
Yeah, dude, it got weird. It gets weird.
It's cringy.
But the theatrical version took a way more, I wouldn't say realistic, but it's way more grounded. You know, it makes a lot more sense too, narratively. So just stick with the theatrical version.
Okay. I'm intrigued so far.
So him escaping the mental institution, there's like a huge chunk of the body count in that, because you see a bunch of dead bodies, even though you don't see him kill them. And Danny Trejo's in it. Did I mention that? I mean, that's
No.
that's like a ding in the you should watch it column, because fucking Danny Trejo's in it. I mean, shit. So that's it. That's what Zombie adds to the story. And in my opinion, if you're going to remake a classic, if you're going to remake a movie that in all essence, doesn't need to be remade. You have to at least add something to it that makes it something else that's worth telling, right?
Yeah.
Something new, because otherwise you get that weird remake of Psycho that Gus Van Sant did in the 90s.
Ooh, that was
with
bad.
Vince Vaughn that, it was shot for shot exactly the same as Hitchcock's, but worse.
Yeah, like why do it? You're not going to outdo Hitchcock
Exactly.
making the
And you're
same
not
movie.
And you're never going to capture that magic that Carpenter captured making Halloween in the 70s when he made it. So he added story and then retold the story that Carpenter told of Michael coming back to Haddonfield. But instead of that implied violence, right, he went a different route and made Michael... He's huge. Okay? I mean, Tyler Mane, ex-wrestler, plays...
Sabretooth?
Yeah, Sabretooth.
Yeah, he was Sabretooth in the X-Men movie.
You never see his face, but he's gigantic. And that's not at all what Michael Myers was in the original. But in my opinion, there's something extremely creepy about someone that large who moves that quietly. And then, like, this Michael Myers he's not there until he is. And then the ferocity that he explodes with when he actually does finally commit the violence, that change, that burst, that flurry of murderous rage is scary. And, he still has the face. The mask is it's not identical, of course, to the original, but it's very faithful to it. It's very
the
similar.
mask is iconic. You can't mess with that too much.
Yeah. And I mean, they ruined it in some of the sequels by changing it so much, and it's like goofy in a couple of them.
Yeah.
But Zombie knew what parts of it to keep.
For people who don't know what that mask is, it was a William Shatner Captain Kirk mask, spray painted white. I watched something on this. The prop guy had two choices. He found some creepy clown mask, like a devilish grin, just like scary clown thing. He's like, oh, that thing's awful. And then
that was supposed to be like an echo of the clown mask he wore as a kid in the very beginning. That was that idea.
Yeah, a throwback.
Which is a good idea.
Yeah, fine idea. And then just on a whim, they spray painted this William Shatner mask white, hollowed out the eyes a little bit, cut out a little material, and he said he put it on an actor and then just went, oh, fuck me. That's awful. Yeah. That is terrifying. And then they just knew immediately that was it. And somehow it's just iconic.
You know what else they did too? If anyone ever looks up the pictures of the original Shatner mask, it had these goofy Brillo pad looking sideburns on it too.
Oh, they took the sideburns off. Yeah,
they took the sideburns off, and I think they dyed the hair and teased it.
Yeah,
to make it a little more standy uppy. And dude, it's just genuinely placid and creepy. It's just dead,
unnerving.
Yeah, and in this movie, in the zombie version, the fact, you can hear him breathing a lot behind the mask, just like you could in the Carpenter one. He used that very effectively. But this show, you feel that there's this dark rage behind this placid mask, and it's unnerving. And Carpenter relied on implied violence a lot for a lot of reasons. It was more about suspense, that movie was, right? And also, the movie wouldn't have gotten released if you showed too much back then.
Oh, yeah. You never would have got it by the censors.
Yeah. I mean, there was that golden age in the early 80s before the MPAA came down, when they were getting away with anything. And then you get that, Jason Takes Manhattan, where I don't even think they show any blood because they were marking everything X. They were rating everything X that came down the pike. But Zombie, of course, leans into the blood and the violence, but I don't think he goes overboard. Okay? And
Well, what year did this come out? The zombie one?
this was 2007.
And the original was like 78, I think.
78.
Yeah, so you're looking at like, 30 years later,
Right.
Like you kind of have to up the ante if you're going to
Yeah, I mean, think about the
catch
world
people's
that
attention.
that was released into, right, in 2007. And you're talking, this is already 15 years ago.
Right.
But you're talking a world that's been desensitized not only by horror movies like Hostel and Saw,
Just the internet.
and their many sequels, but the world, and what they're seeing in mass shootings, and some dude that kills 5 people in one night, in Illinois somewhere, isn't really that big of a deal,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, meanwhile, you do a quick web search and you can find videos of like people being beheaded. It's gross.
Right. Yeah, and this was, considering how long it lasted, this was fairly early in the war on terror.
Right.
And that kind of shit was everywhere on the internet. So he was making it in a very different time for a very different audience, especially a horror audience that had seen it all. So he had to be a bit more violent. But I think he restrained himself because you know what, man? When someone's stabbed to death, it's not like Hollywood usually portrays it. Like, it's not one stab and the person fucking falls over dead. Most people who are stabbed to death are stabbed a lot, and it's a slow, awful, bloody process. And you see a bit of that. And to me,
Boy.
it makes it scary, dude. It makes it really scary. But Zombie knows how to do violence. Like, he knows how to use it as a punctuation mark. He knows the rhythm of violence. And usually he's playing too fast. Usually he's playing a fucking White Zombie song, But this narrative forced him to slow it down and to take it, kill by kill. And the results are amazing. There's one thing I will say. There, no matter, in addition to some spots of bad dialogue, I cannot get behind what he did to Loomis, to Dr. Loomis.
Loomis is in it. Okay.
Yeah, he is in it. And it's Malcolm McDowell plays him.
Okay. I mean, I'll say that I when you're ready, I do have some questions. One of them is about Loomis.
Okay, well, to ask it now. Let's get the doctor out of the way.
All right, so I just have to say this: I love the original; it's great. But for some reason, the most ridiculous thing about the original is not the fact that there's a giant, unstoppable killing machine, terrorizing the town of Haddonfield. It's that some guy who's a psychiatrist is allowed to run around at random with a loaded gun on Halloween night just because he was the guy's doctor. Several times he shows up. They're like, "Who are you?" "I was his doctor, damn it, for 12 years. He's pure evil." And they're like, "Okay, sir, you and your gun may proceed into the house." It's, what? Like that, it boggles the mind, but I just wonder how they treat that in a new one. Is Loomis running around waving a gun? He's pure evil.
Well, kind of, yeah. Loomis does go get a gun, and it does become integral to the ending. But Loomis is a very different character. A lot of people love the original Sam Loomis, Donald Pleasant's version of him.
I do too. It was utterly ridiculous,
I do too.
though.
It was ridiculous, but this is not that. This Loomis is weird. He starts off as Michael's psychiatrist as a kid in the hospital, and that's when you meet him when he's younger and he has like darker long hair. That's how they made him younger, whatever. But how do I put it? When you meet him when Michael's an adult, he has published a book about Michael Myers and the murders he committed as a child, and he is on a public speaking tour about it. Like, he's very opportunistic. Like, he's a dick.
Okay.
Like, he's basically a dick.
He's trying to profit by it.
Yeah. And then but like he's a smarmy asshole. But then when he finds out Michael escaped, he all of a sudden has this like attack of conscience. His motivation doesn't make sense. It's muddled. It's weird. And Malcolm McDowell is not. I hate him. Like, I don't like the guy. I don't like his performances in almost anything. You know, like I think he's taken a lot of horrible roles. Like, it seems like he's one of those actors that just takes any role that comes down the pike. You like any shit movie, you're like, oh, Malcolm McDowell, of course he's in this.
Was he Alex from Clockwork Orange?
Yeah,
that was him.
He was really young. Yeah. He's been in a million things, but he's just like a ham. You know, he always plays the same fucking part, and him being English doesn't make any sense to me. British, whatever you want to say. Like, I just didn't like the casting. I think there's a million other character actors that could have done a lot of really great things, even with the dialogue that he had. And he also tries to be, like, funny, you know, and snarky. It's weird. It's just a weird tone for the character, and I just don't like it. But also, the way this movie ends, I don't think you're supposed to like him that much. So it kind of resolves itself, but you might be a little turned off by that at first. So what's your... Was that it? Do you have any other questions about Loomis? Or?
No other questions about Loomis. I just remember him standing out in the original as just like this. I accepted it, you know, but the whole thing surrounding him, his motivations, he's like, no, I want him to never get out. Like, usually some psychiatrist is trying to understand a patient, and he was past that. He's like, no, he's evil, lock him up forever. Which how
evil he was,
which was kind of silly. But it leads me to another question. I'm interested to hear about why you think it works so well that they show so much of Michael Myers' backstory, because part of what made him so scary in the original was that there was no explanation for why he went off like that, and it kind of like makes the lack of motivation makes it even more terrifying to me anyway for that movie in particular. It's just like you don't know why he does it. You never see his face. And he just becomes like less of a person and more of like an enigma, like a force of nature that you can't really hope to understand or stop. And I just think it's interesting that they put so much. I feel like the more you explain it, the more it demystifies it. Like they say, you fear the thing you don't know, and it sounds like you get to know Michael Myers pretty well. So how does Rob Zombie make you fear him?
Sure. And let me be very clear. Rob Zombie doesn't provide an explanation for why Michael becomes what he becomes. Okay? There's no, like, this caused this, or, you know, this happened to him, so he snapped.
Okay. You just see more of what happened before he put the mask on.
Right. And like I said, all you really learn is that his transformation was gradual. He came from a shitty home, right? Surrounded by shitty shit, bad circumstances. He was bullied a bit, but all that really does is give him targets and excuses. But there's something in him already when we meet him as a child that's very, very, very wrong. And
so he was more born than made.
Yeah. And I think why, as to answer why, right? Why do this? I think it was to firmly let the audience know that Michael Myers is not supernatural. Because what we also have to remember is, and people who are, if you don't know how fucking labyrinthian the Halloween series is, it's an absolute mess. Like, it's an absolute mess. There's the original movie John Carpenter made, never intended for there to be a sequel, was forced to make a sequel because it was so popular, so he phoned in a sequel, Halloween 2.
It's like the same movie in a hospital.
Yeah, and slow and really boring with a goofy ending as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
Whatever. That's a whole nother conversation. Which is funny because the same thing actually happened to Rob Zombie, and he was forced to make a sequel to this, and it's fucking terrible. 'Cause
Oh,
he
it's
didn't wanna
bad.
make it.
Oh man.
Yeah, the first half hour is amazing, and then the rest of it is absolute dog shit.
Oh no.
So, and then Halloween 3 didn't even have Michael Myers in it.
Is that the season of the witch one?
Yeah.
Okay.
They thought it was going to be more like a serial series of movies with different characters. Didn't work. They bring him back for 4, but at this point, like, he's been shot in both eyes, but doesn't affect him.
Right. Because he's Michael Myers.
He becomes, all of a sudden, like they did with Jason, eventually in the Friday the 13th series, he becomes supernatural and unkillable. Like, you shoot him 10 times, he doesn't die. Like, and then
Well, they set that up in the first one. Then Loomis put 6 slugs into him, and he just got up and walked away.
Yeah, but I just think that was for the shock value of the ending of him just not being on the lawn.
And it would have worked if it was a one-off.
Exactly. If you think about it with Carpenter's intent of that being it, like never thinking there'd be a sequel, because they were pretty uncommon back then, even for horror movies, it makes more sense,
right.
And it's super mysterious, especially because then you show the ending. Actually, the actual ending is showing every location where he killed somebody, and you hear his breathing behind the mask, implying like, Michael could be anywhere, which is the whole theme of the original. Like, this evil could live within anyone around us, around in your neighborhood or your neighborhood.
It could happen to you.
Yeah, and it works. Where were we?
We were talking about the labyrinthian lure behind Michael Myers. And
So,
you
yeah,
have to talk
by
about the curse of Michael Myers with Paul Rudd. Oh, my God.
Baby Paul Rudd
And
carrying
the
a baby.
runes, the
Always
magical
carrying
runes.
a baby. And there's 2 versions of this movie out there, by the way. A work print adapted version, because Donald Pleasance died while they were making it. So, and plus the studio got involved. There's a whole clusterfuck, but there's a better version out there than the theatrical version, but they're both pretty bad. They went full supernatural and created like a mythology behind the what made Michael Myers become an evil killing machine. And there's like
It has
like
something
the
to do with
cult of
Sam
Thorn.
Hain.
Yeah, the cult of Thorn, and they worship Sam Hain, and it's just a fucking disaster, right?
And you're able
And
to
I think-
control him at the end. I think if you have the rune or something, you can control
he's
Michael
basically like a
Myers.
golem. He's like a
Yeah,
golem.
yeah.
Exactly. That's what he becomes. It's so fucking goofy. So I think that is why Zombie did what he did. He wanted to really make it clear that this was an organic,
A man of
just a
flesh
real-
and blood.
Yes, exactly. He was a kid. He came from somewhere. Like, he was birthed from a woman. He came from somewhere. He grew up. And this is, here's a story of when he snapped. And then here's this other story about when he snapped another time after being silent for 15 years, which he does again in this. He goes into a period of catatonia and grows to become the size of a giant.
It's
Which is
that-
great because it's
that
like a
protein pancakes in the institution.
I guess, man. I guess, yeah. He got his 10,000 calories a day somehow to be Tyler Mane size. I
Sheesh.
don't know. And of course, the way Zombie films him, he looks even bigger.
With
he's
the
so
camera tricks.
imposing. Yeah, he's so imposing in this movie. There's one scene where he's at a front door, and and has those I don't know what they're called, those windows at the top of the front door. They're like in a fan shape.
Yeah.
Decorative.
I know what you mean.
Well, you see the camera pans down to Laurie locking the deadbolt, and then it pans up, and he's so fucking tall. His face is right in that fucking window. And just
boy.
something about knowing he's the size of the actual door that he's behind. Like, talk about unstoppable. He's almost more like the Terminator in this, but he's not invulnerable. Like, he gets hurt. He does bleed.
So, like,
he
if
is
you were to
wounded.
injure his leg, would he then have a limp, or would he still just keep coming like he's unfazed? Because that's kind of what happened in the first one. Like Laurie Strode stabs him with a knife. She pokes his eye with a coat hanger, and he takes like 5 bullets to the chest.
And the knitting needle too, right?
Yeah, he gets hit with a
Yeah.
needle.
he can take a lot still. I mean, he can still take a lot. He reacts to the pain.
Okay.
But yeah, he keeps coming. He keeps coming, man, until the end, which is pretty fucking awesome, I have to say. And he, instead of leaving it open like Carpenter did, Zombie fully intended for this to be a one-off movie, and he ends it. Like, he fucking ends this movie, which makes the second one. It makes the second one even worse.
Does he stick the landing?
Yeah, he sticks the landing, and then he has to retcon himself to make the second movie even possible.
Wow, that sucks.
Right, which is another reason why the second movie sucks. But man, I'll tell you, you haven't seen it obviously for a while because it's been out for a while, and I fully understand based on what you've seen of Zombie's work as a filmmaker why you would avoid this, especially if you love the original. But I'm telling you, man, it's worth it. It's worth it, especially because I know you're not one of those diehard like Michael Myers fans.
Right. No, I
movie,
enjoy the first one. I enjoy the first one very much so, because it's a couple things. It's a classic. It's John Carpenter, who I love, and it stands on its own. Like, I don't care for the sequels. The first one's great.
Do you remember that guy we knew in high school, Ryan?
Oh yeah,
rich kid, that rich fake ass goth kid who lived over, and
who could forget him?
He was one of those Michael Myers nuts. Like, he was get all weird about, Michael's motivation, and he knew all kinds of weird shit from the internet about the cult of Thorn, and would talk about it a lot.
I never experienced that from him, but yeah, that tracks. Like, he was a doofus.
Like, this is like, so everyone gets a full picture. This is the kind of guy, he had like 15 Gil Hibben knives hanging up around his room, and his family was so well off that he would like spend summers in Europe. Whatever. He was a total toolbox, but that's who I think of when I see these people on the internet arguing about the motivations of a masked psycho killer who's not real.
And like, all the stuff he argued came from the bad movies. Why would you latch onto that? It's from the shitty sequels.
Right. That were done by all different directors, and they were all just different versions of the same cash grab. Yeah. Just like the revived series. Like, I can't even...
No, don't go there. I can't
even express how much I hate... Oh, God. This is better than those. If you sat through those, you really should give this one a watch.
Well, I did sit through those. I sat through the first one, which I will admit wasn't bad. The first reboot.
Okay.
From I didn't hate it.
Same here.
The second one I thought was stupid. Again, I mean, I didn't hate that movie, but I was like, this is dumb. Why'd they do it? And then the third one is just absolutely atrocious in every way. They did nothing right. There was one scene that I was like, okay, the kills were kind of cool and inventive, and that's the only positive I have to say about it.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, it's not much. But
it's not much.
I do have a question.
Okay.
I've seen some Rob Zombie movies, like I said, and I wanted to like them. But at the end of the day, there were some that I didn't like. He has some cool moments, like at the end of Devil's Rejects, how the whole end is just to the tune of like the entirety of Freebird. I was like, this is
a great scene.
Goofy and ham-handed and over the top, and I love it. But one of the things that keeps me away from Rob Zombie movies is Sherry Moon Zombie. And I'm sorry, she's fine to look at, but has the most annoying and off-putting voice I've ever heard. Just God, it's like nails on a chalkboard every time she opens her mouth. But she's in everything. Like, could you imagine going to a Rob Zombie casting call, and then you turn and you look and Sherry Moon Zombie's in the room, and you're like, well, I may as well just leave now. I know who's getting this part. She's in all of them. Is she in this movie?
Every one of them, yeah. She is in this movie.
How big of a role does she have? because that will directly affect my decision to watch it.
I've prepared for this.
Okay.
I've prepared for this eventuality. She's Michael Myers' mom.
So she bites it early, huh? Okay. Perfect.
Well, I'm not good. Yes, but it's not how you probably expect.
Doesn't
But
matter.
She's not. And I will also say this is her most normal performance out of any movie. Like, she's very just restrained for Sherry Moon Zombie.
Okay.
There's no weird baby doll voice. There's no weird.
She's a nightmare.
She's just kind of like a for lack of a better term, a white trashy single mom who makes a living as a stripper.
Yeah, okay, that tracks.
But you don't really see much of that. Like,
right.
Like, honestly, you see her, I think, making breakfast. She shows up at Michael's school, and then you see her on Halloween night before she leaves. And that's kind of it.
I think
and there's a couple scenes in the hospital, but
that
she doesn't
sounds
really
tolerable.
talk much. I think you can make it. And she does. I will say she does die. So there is that. You can look forward to that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I see. I'm in on that point.
Okay. And here's another thing that you're gonna like. We talked about this in the episode when we discussed the ending of John Carpenter's The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
How in the original Halloween, The Thing from Another World is playing on TV, right?
Right.
Well, in a nod to Mr. Carpenter, Zombie has that movie on twice in this film.
The original Thing?
Yeah, the original Thing is on TV in the first chapter during the original Halloween murder spree, and the kids are watching it in the second chapter during his return to Haddonfield.
Okay.
And I thought you would like that.
That's
it's a
cool.
nice little
Yeah,
nod
man.
to nice little nod to John, without being too much about it.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff that you don't need a ton of, lore, or you don't need to freeze frame it to get what's happening. It's just like a little homage.
Yep, and also, like, he does little things like that too throughout, but they're very subtle. And like Danielle Harris is Annie Brackett in this, and Danielle Harris played a prominent role in the later sequels of the original run as a child, and she's fantastic in this. So that's a little Easter egg for fans of the whole Halloween series. Brad Dourif is the sheriff. He's Sheriff Brackett. The voice of Chucky.
Oh, he's the sheriff.
Yeah.
Does he do any chanting?
Yeah. No chanting. Chanting. He has a pretty intense mustache, though. I will say that, to go along with his furry hat.
You gotta.
Him and Loomis have a lot of scenes together. But I mean, it's a really solid horror movie. There's a lot to it. If you can get past, like I said, a couple bad dialogue moments, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And I want to see if you agree with me after seeing this, that if Zombie had less of an ego and would have just made some movies that he didn't entirely create, that he could have been a pretty epic director.
Okay.
So that's my case, man. That's my case.
That's the pitch. Okay. So,
do you have any more concerns or questions?
Well, no more concerns really. I have a question. Like, it's become one of the hallmarks of those movies. Halloween and other genres. It's like you look at the kills, and how did this one go, and how did this one go? And for the first movie, it was pretty standard. It's like man gets stabbed with knife, lady gets choked in car. And then it became a trope. It's like, well, how's this one gonna go? Does this movie kind of play into that, where they're looking at trying to do these over the top, unique kills for each victim?
No.
Okay.
I will say
that's
they're
fine.
They're opportunistic kills, because there's times when Michael doesn't have a weapon.
Okay.
So, but he just kind of, man.
He is the weapon.
Yeah, he kind of is. There's a fight in a men's room when he gets his coveralls, because you see him kill the trucker in this one.
Oh,
Sorry
okay.
for the spoiler alert.
Damn
but
it.
that's a kill that happens off screen in Carpenter's original. Well, you see it, and it's a pretty brutal just fight in a bathroom. But I mean, there's a couple kills that are a little like, they're not that inventive. They're just a little brutal. But for the most part, man, they're just murders. They're just flat out murders, and they're not jokey at all. I will say he does recreate one of the more memorable kills from the original, and one of the signature Michael Myers moments that you kind of just had to have.
If I'm thinking about that from the original, like the thing that I remember the most is him like stapling that guy to the wall with like a butcher knife.
Yeah, and giving him that weird little
and then
look.
and like just kind of tilting his head back and forth, just kind of like he's taking it all in. Is that what we're talking about?
He does that, yes.
Okay.
He recreates that, and then he actually adds another small moment that's similar to that. That's kind of an original one.
Okay.
A little later on. So yeah.
That's the case. All right.
That's the case.
Well,
that's the case.
I'll say this: after careful consideration, I'm happy to report that the hampers are getting piled up. Laundry day's coming. I'll officially add this to the laundry list, and
awesome.
It's a hefty investment. It's 2 hours of my life that only occur when the stars align and there's clothes to wash and I have time on my hands and something in the pipe to watch. So it's on the list. I'll give it a watch at my earliest opportunity.
All right. I hope you don't hate me.
I won't hate you. I can't promise that for the movie, but I do want some more suggestions. So we can continue to be friends after this.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for our first episode of Laundry List.
The Laundry List.
Maybe I convinced some more of you out there.